If you've ever played a game of League of Legends, I'm sorry you went through that. But you've probably had the experience of playing with a teammate who intentionally ran down the map and died over and over again. But of course, once the game ended, you report the player and their account is suspended for trolling. No, not really. Instead, 5 minutes later, they're on to the next game doing the same thing all over again. But if you type a couple bad words in the chat, the automated system can instantly ban your account for 2 weeks or even permanently. So today we try to answer the question of how many deaths does it take for a player to actually get their account banned. But before we get into that, we've all been there before. You watch one of Riot's esports music videos, you get inspired and then decide that you will become a professional gaming champion. But then you realize you're probably not good enough. So that's where Repeat.gg comes in, the sponsor of today's video. Repeat is a tournament website that allows you to join tournaments and win real cash prizes. And it takes care of all the organizing aspects. If you don't have 4 other friends to make a team with, there's no problem. Repeat.gg keeps track of your in-game scores and then you compete in leaderboards for the tournaments you joined. The scoring system is only based on your individual performance, so your solo queue teammates can't negatively affect your scores. The way Repeat works, you don't have to install anything, just sign up with the link in the description, link your league account, and you're done. Now just join tournaments and start climbing the leaderboards. And don't worry about having bad games, as the tournaments only take your best scores into account. So if you're ready to start living your esports dreams, sign up to Repeat.gg with the first link in the description and start competing in tournaments today. This is the report button. After a match with a disruptful player, you can send a report to Riot Games, specifically detailing what the player did. The report menu provides multiple options, but it's not that simple. Riot in the past has essentially admitted that some options acted as a placebo effect. Back in the day, you could outright report someone for being a quote, unskilled player. This was a pretty toxic option for Riot to implement, as many new players would have to endure their teammates in chat requesting their team and the enemy team to report them for being unskilled, whether they were intentionally playing poorly or they were just learning the game. Riot later removed this report option as it actually didn't really do anything. No one was being banned for such reports. Another example is in June of 2020, Riot introduced Champion Select reports. This was a long time requested feature to report players who begin their trolling before the game even starts. However, 2 years later, Riot pretty much admitted that these reports led to nothing. They were just collecting data. But okay, back to players intentionally dying in-game. Here's a pretty good example and answer to whether or not you can get banned for dying too much. Recently, you may have heard that the popular streamer Tyler1 decided to achieve the highest rank in the game while playing on the European server. Well, due to his popularity, a handful of players thought it'd be really funny to get onto his team and make sure that he loses.
How is that funny?
They did this by trying to carefully time when he would search for a game, and then once confirming that they're in Tyler's game, they would just intentionally die, over and over and over again. The worst offense was this Syndra player, who died 43 times within a 26-minute game. However, once the game was finished, Tyler shared some sympathy, stating that he relates to Syndra, as everyone has bad games.
Happens. I mean, I'm not gonna report her personally. Like, I've had a bad day, bro. It's okay. I've had a few bad games. I'm not gonna report that. Honestly, I'm gonna honor this guy. Respect. The guy is able to play one more game before he gets auto-banned? Dude, surely that guy can't even queue up again, right?
I have your answer. They were indeed allowed to play one more game after inting 43 times. In fact, they were allowed to play 34 more games since that incident on March 18th. However, I am unsure if they are now finally banned, as they haven't played in 6 days. Though it seems they clearly sold their items and trolled in 2 of their last 4 games. It's perhaps these moments that finally broke the camel's back, and not the dying 43 times in one game. Only a few hours later, the record of 43 deaths in one game would be challenged. As Tyler1 would load into his next game, he recognized that the name of his jungler was the same name as someone who had just recently ran it down in one of his earlier games.
God damn it, not this fucking... God damn it! Whatever, go for the record, bro. Go for the record. And this guy beat the other guy with 43 deaths. Let's see.
And he did it. With 28 minutes and 8 seconds, this Master Yi named 911 died a total of 48 times and obtained the record. Now, unlike the Syndra player, this account was actually later banned. Apparently, all we can be sure of is that they haven't been active for over a month. There's a chance it was only a 14-day ban and they just didn't get back on. Though perhaps the 3 back-to-back games of obvious trolling finally triggered something in Riot's system to determine that this player is most likely not playing to win. Now here's the problem. Surely a player like this who dies over 40 times should always receive some sort of automatic punishment. At the very least, a short suspension from queuing up into another ranked game. But clearly Riot takes into account that some players actually die a lot in games while still trying their best to win. A great example is the streamer The Bows. Odds are you know who this is. He is a challenger ranked player who went viral a while back for how he plays the champion Sion. Specifically, his playstyle consists of unapologetically doing whatever necessary to get gold advantages and take down the enemy towers. This often results in games where he has ridiculous KDAs, but he still wins. Most times. To put into perspective his playstyle, as of making this video, in his last 20 games, he has only had a positive kill-death ratio in 2 games. On his most played champions, the Bows averages over 12 deaths per game. All in all, if you were to have this player on your team, regardless of the context, you would certainly call them a feeder. However, despite most of his teammates disagreeing with his playstyle, the game struggles to figure out if he's trolling or not. Despite his scores, he's often one of the most productive players. But every once in a while, the game does determine that he's trolling and his account gets suspended. Just recently, he went 1-17 on Ramis, a horrible game where he unironically contributed nothing. So perhaps lack of team contribution and the likelihood that his whole team reported him triggered his account to be automatically suspended. And before it happened, he had a feeling it was coming.
Well, it is what it is. Yeah, I kinda expected it.
But again, there's no consistency to how players get banned for feeding. Because after receiving this ban, he went on another account 5 minutes later and went 2-21 on AP Aurelia. Arguably worse than the Ramis game, but this account didn't receive any suspension, despite his teammate requesting for him to be permanently banned in the chat.
21 deaths, how does that even happen?
I'm not sure, but to further showcase the inconsistency, he would later go on to continue having terrible games. 0-10, 1-12, and this 7-19 game happened only an hour after the other Aurelia game. If you combine the scores, he went 9-40 in 2 defeats. But he's no stranger to receiving people's opinion on his playstyle.
You're an awkward kid and sound annoying. Good thing you don't play at the internet cafe in Korea. They will probably jump you. What the fuck?
In the end, how many deaths does it take for your account to be suspended for intentional feeding? I don't think there's a simple answer. From the research I did, I think there's an algorithm that weighs a multitude of data to determine if you're trolling or not. But at the same time, I feel that it's incredibly inconsistent and irrelevant, as it's unbelievable that the Syndra player we mentioned earlier got away with running it down 40 times in a ranked game with 0 punishment. Not to mention the low elo bots who clearly contribute nothing to their games, and they're allowed to ruin tens of games before ever being banned. Anyway, what can you do? Riot Games is an independent company which only generated $1.5 billion last year. So they may not have the resources to fix this kind of stuff. As always, thank you for watching, consider subscribing, and I'll see you again next week.
No, this is not happening. I played well that game. I played well.